No, when we get to it, we'll do it. Yeah. Welcome, everyone. We will get started here. So I call this June 23rd, 2026 meeting of council to order at 6:01. This meeting will be held in a hybrid manner where members of council, staff, and the public can participate electronically. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available on the township website. Notice is hereby provided that under the authority of the Municipal Act 2001 and in accordance with Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, that all information attained is considered part of the public record. All rules apply to the meeting as if everyone was attending in person, and if there is a problem with the technology impacting the proceedings of the meeting may be recessed. Just before we go to the national anthem, I'll just make you aware the screen isn't on here, so maybe. With two members virtually, I just want to be able to make sure I see the screen. Being a little stubborn. There we go. It's thinking about it now. It's good. No, no, we can go ahead and I can use the ones on the side. So I'll just let Councillor Ennis and Councillor Budrick know that the screen in front of me isn't working. So if I happen to miss your hand going up through the meeting this evening, please just speak up and we'll be sure and try again, okay? We'll keep working on it. So we should be good, but we'll go ahead with what we've got. Okay, so are we queued okay for the national anthem? Okay, so at this time, anyone who can, I'd ask to rise for the playing of the national anthem. We acknowledge that we are being hosted on the ancestral lands of the Haudenosaunee, Mississauga, and Omama-Winini people. We acknowledge and welcome the presence of all Indigenous people, including the Métis, Inuit, and other First Nations from across this vast land who also make this place home. The lands we are on today are recognized in the Two-Row Wampum, Dish with One Spoon Treaty, Treaty 27, and the Crawford Purchase. So at this time, I would take a motion for the confirmation of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Councillor Broderick, so moved, seconded by Councillor Parks. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion is passed. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof for this evening's meeting? Seeing none. We didn't have any closed session, so we will go straight into presentations. The first one up this evening is former Deputy Mayor Nathan Townen. And you know the drill. Whenever you're ready, please proceed.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, staff, and the good people of Loyalist Township. I appear before you tonight to properly say goodbye, having by necessity resigned my elected office of Deputy Mayor last week. In my remarks that I gave to a special meeting of County Council last week, I went into some detail about the context, process, and ultimate decision I made to leave my elected offices. Between that account and what is already recorded in local media, I see no need to repeat what is already public. That said, I welcome anyone to reach out if there are further questions. Tonight, instead, I want to speak directly a little about my time on Loyalist Council and leave as my parting words an expression of profound gratitude. A week affords a good amount of time to reflect. One of the things I have reflected upon is how far I have come in 8 years. And as you shall understand momentarily, that is not a statement of my own ego, but one that is truly humble, recognizing as I do all the people who have supported me. When I started, I had big shoes to fill. Duncan Ashley's presence and legacy in the political landscape of both Amherst Island and Loyalist Township was as imposing as his physical stature. I was, to be sure, a greenhorn with little to no idea about what I was embarking on. At that time, Ward 1 was in the post-conflict travails of the Turbine Project, a community exhausted by internal strife. There really were no winners or losers when the costs were counted, and those on all sides could be said to have been somewhat pessimistic about the community's future, mournful about the perceived loss of its past, and cynical, to say the least, about the benevolence of its municipal government. As someone who had come to the island towards the end of that time, I was in a good position to do what I made it my mission to do, which was to bring the island together again in my own little small way by encouraging islanders to reinvest in Loyalist Township, to rebuild trust in council, staff, and the corporation as a whole, and to be the kind of councillor who inspired confidence by virtue of openness, accountability, and professionalism. I feel I did move the dial on that score, and for that I am both proud and grateful to the people of Ward 1 who put their trust in me back in 2018, which seems a lifetime ago, and for the council and staff that supported that important work. I have always believed strongly that every member of council, elected at large or not, should have the best interests of the township as a whole. We are stronger together as a team. Then, of course, I ran for deputy mayor in 2022, something I never expected to do. I am sure if you were to ask Rick Brzee if there was a bitter pill to swallow in his ascension to a higher office, he might say it was paving the way for me. But in all seriousness, Mr. Brzee's election to MPP created a need for stability and continuity of leadership in what was a period of post-COVID flux, which was everywhere, not just Loyalist, but for us also a time when serious industrial files were in progress. Much was in the works. Cometh the hour, cometh the man, enter Mayor Hagedorn. Jim, the pillars of your leadership, if I were to name them, would be integrity, compassion, good humor, and deep thoughtfulness. It has been a privilege being your deputy these past 4 years. It is a rare treasure in politics to serve someone to whom you are ardently loyal and whom you deeply admire. That has been a gift. Another gift you have willingly given me is your unfailing encouragement and support in the pursuit of my own opportunities at leadership. In many ways, the deputy's role on our council is what you make it. Because much like that of the Vice President of the United States, constitutionally, it's not endowed with much responsibility or imagination beyond the obvious supportive aspect and waiting in the wings, which of course, you know, I don't do very well sitting on my hands. And let's be honest, I also like being the boss too. Some mayors with lesser wisdom and greater insecurity might have attempted to curtail my efforts to busy myself in the role. You, being the paternal man you are, instead pushed me to bring the value added to the role that I wanted and needed to. And counter to the prevailing Old Boys Club precedents, at county you supported me for deputy warden and warden twice. I could recall many more instances, but suffice it to say, I owe you a debt I really can't repay, Jim. To the rest of my colleagues, thank you for your candor and your service to this council and to our communities. We faced some tough challenges in our time. We've had some philosophical disagreements. That's the nature of the job, but we've always conducted ourselves with the respect and decorum that inspire faith and confidence in the democratic process, and I want to thank you all for that. I said not long ago that being on provincial advocacy boards has allowed me to see a broad range of council experience in Ontario, and indeed Canada. I hope the people of Loyalist Township appreciate and protect with all their might the high functionality of this chamber. But colleagues, we've also a lot to celebrate too for what we've accomplished together in this term. In particular, I am so proud that after successive councils kicked it down the road, we took the decision to rebuild the WJ. It is a significant investment that will serve generations to come, and I will always be proud that we did that. I'm also proud to have had my personal stamp of initiation on our physician recruitment program, and so grateful to Rebecca, our CAO, for doing the work to make it the success that it has been. I'm also proud to have helped in the development of Loyalist Township's first climate action plan, something through which I gained a friend in Rami Mazarani and, of course, Jenna Campbell. Jenna, I will miss much of working together, and in particular, what amounts to our semi-regular political podcast in your office, albeit with a listenership of 2, if only the premiers and prime ministers would consult us. And I would be completely remiss if I didn't name another friend, Laurie McFarland. Ours is an example of the kinds of important and rare supportive relationships that reach across the desk between staff and council. For one thing, you have been in the gunnels of the ferry operation longer than anyone else. You and I have together been fiercely determined and in lockstep to see through what we knew to be in the best interests of our ferry users and residents, and we now have a fully operational electric ferry, docks, and terminals, when other places not so far away have far less. I am sad that so close to a new agreement I won't be able to sign it, but I hope you'll invite me. Frankly, I could be here all night discussing the meaningful relationships I have developed with Loyalist staff, both past and present, such as Steve Silver, without whom I may well have hung up my hat far earlier. I truly do have such great affection and respect for our staff. And there again, I sincerely hope the people of our township know the value of our staff, how hard they work, how dedicated they are to our residents, and how talented and qualified they are in their respective fields. I would struggle to articulate adequately how much staff have meant to me personally and how much I shall miss working with you all. And of course, I want to thank the people of our great township, our community of communities. Over the past 8 years, I have only gained in respect and affinity for our residents. It is truly a great privilege and joy when you're in elected office that you get to know your community more deeply than you really do any other way. Our township is full of community-minded, generous, kind people who take care of one another, who care to make our community better, and give of themselves to make it happen. Lastly, I want to thank my friends and family, some of whom are here in chambers tonight, people who have supported my political career from the beginning, and to my partner, Peggy, without whom none of my work would have been possible, and without whom I have shared the high peaks of joy and the lowest troughs of anguish that public life inevitably brings. The truth is, if you boil all of this verbosity down, which I'm sure council wishes I would, I owe so much to this place and to this community. I would never have realized my potential or found and understood the depth of my passion for the work of municipal government, which I continue in a new role. None of that would have been possible if I had not put my name on the ballot in 2018, and if it had not been for the people of Loyalist Township. Thank you all.
Nathan, if you can just hang on for a second, I'll just see if council, are there any comments or anything for the presenter? Councillor Broderick.
Again, no, I can't put into words, but I thought I saw maybe a tear there. So best of luck, Nathan. I know we'll be seeing you around, whether it's at the GOAT or maybe at the county, we'll see, but best of luck.
Thank you. Any other, Councillor Willis?
Thank you. Through your worship, Nathan, I want to first speak on behalf of the residents of Ward 1, which is Amherst Island, and thank you for your service as their councillor from 2018 to 2022 and your indefatigable work as the deputy mayor in getting the ferry going. And I don't know that people know how much work you were doing behind the scenes to make that happen with our staff. So for that, we thank you. You've represented the township at AMO, Roma, and as chair of public health and bringing that new organization together. We're very proud that you were representing Loyalist Township in doing that. We know that you will provide vision and leadership in your new role, and you've set a high bar for us who served with you on council and people who will serve in the future. A very high bar for integrity and professionalism. So wishing you all the luck. Hope we see you around sometime.
Any other comments this evening? Seeing none, I just want to say thank you. It's 8 years. It's hard to believe, but here we are. And I do remember when you came on council, but I didn't have a clue who you were or anything about you. And we sat on opposite sides of the table, but we quite quickly realized that we did have a lot in common, even though we had a lot of differences. But we could always be adults, agree to disagree when the time came, and work together on the other times. I was also very pleased to see you become the deputy mayor. I'm glad that you are someone who does like to work and does like to help, because I leaned on you very heavily at times and turned over complete folders to you because I knew that you were the best suited to be able to advance them. And you did. You did very well. And yes, I did support you with deputy warden and warden, even though myself, I didn't go for warden for my own personal reasons. Up to date, I have never done that yet. But I was very happy that you were in your leadership and the work that you did. It was immense. And it was not only across the province, but you also across the country at times. You dealt with situations that were federal, not just provincial. So it's going to be very different having an empty seat beside me. But the good news is we will continue to work together. You'll be with the county and we'll be working together, well, as long as I'm here, I'm assuming, to be able to advance the township and the county together and make the whole area a better place. So with that, I say thank you. And I would just ask if you would just come forward just for a moment. There we go. Okay, so we have one more presentation this evening, and that is the 2025 financial statements presented by Richard Stigina, CPA and partner for Baker Tilly.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's a pleasure to be here.
You're in the meeting now, so welcome, and feel free. Did you have anything to say, Director, before we go to the?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, not really. I think we're just here to support Richard in his presentation. If there's any questions, we can help answer along with Richard.
Thank you. So whenever you're ready, please proceed. You are up on the screen, so we can see your display as well. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be here to run through this presentation. The first part of the presentation reflects what we've done as auditors, and the later slides then give you an idea of some of the financial results. So first, moving along to the next slide. Within the detailed financial statements, which are in the agenda a little later with the treasurer's report. Within there is our independent auditor's report, and that is our report on the financial statements. The auditor's report has remained consistent in content with the prior year. So what we've presented here, that in our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects. The financial position of of Loyalist Township at December 31st, 2025, and the results of its operations and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian Public Sector Accounting Standards. So that is your standard clean, unqualified auditor's report. And keep in mind, as required by the Ministry and the Municipal Act, that you're following Canadian Public Sector Accounting Standards, more commonly known as PSAB, which are different than how you budget. So I will try to maybe highlight a few of those differences as we go through. But as I said, standard, clean, unqualified auditor's report. If you move along to the next slide, it just gives you an idea of some of the procedures we do in gathering our evidence so that we can produce our auditor's report. And some of the items are listed there on the slide, and as well too, looking at how amounts flow through your accounting records, both revenues, your inflows and your outflows of payroll and disbursements, and then how you adjust things by journal entries. Those are all streams that we take a look at. Then moving along to the next slide, overall the audit is complete pending receipt of the representation letter, receipt of the legal letter when we did up the presentation, and we have received that already, as well as council approval of the financial statements. Overall, there were no difficulties encountered during the course of our audit or disagreements with management or changes to our initial audit plan, and excellent cooperation from management and staff. And I think too that point needs to be maybe highlighted a little more this year too, as you had some significant changes within your finance department this year. So it was nice to see then the information was provided accurately and quickly with new people within the department. So that was good to see. And as well too, the other nice thing for 2025, there were no changes for PSAB requirements as there were in 2023 and 2024. So that was good. There will be changes in 2027 when the format of the statement changes, but for 25 and 26, it should remain consistent. And as well too, taking a look at how things were adjusted, and as a result of adjustments agreed to by both us and your management team, there was nothing unadjusted that we found, so that the statement of uncorrected differences, that there's nothing on there, which is good to see. So that's a summary of how the audit went. And as I said, it went well. So that was very good. And then when we move along to the following slide, these slides then are taken as extracts out of both this year's financial statements and prior years to give you some ideas to some of the trends facing the township over the years. And as you can see there, in 2025 is the column on the right highlighted there. And just as a reminder, as we as auditors, we started the audit for the township in 2024, and so the last two columns on the right are the ones we had audited, and then the other numbers are coming from financial statements from the prior auditor. Overall, as you will see there, that your financial assets did decline slightly. Overall, your cash position remains fairly consistent year over year, a slight increase. The biggest change is your accounts receivable. At the end of 2024, you had numerous capital grants outstanding, mainly in relation to the W.J. Henderson project. And you will find that then will have a ripple impact throughout the financial statements for both looking at 2024 and 2025. And then that number did go down for your receivables as you collected some of those grants, but you still have some more outstanding, still adding to that increase over 2023. Your taxes receivable went up year over year, and you can see there between 23 and 2025, it has moved around a bit, and in total, including penalties and interest, the amount outstanding at the end of the year was 10.4% of the total levy, which is just slightly above the low risk range that the ministry sets at 10%. Last year, you were at 9.7%, so just a small percentage increase there. And then as well, too, you'll just note this year, the new loan receivable amount for works done on Emma Street in relation to a local improvement charge. So that amount will be collected over time. So you had about $48.3 million in financial assets. And so they're under PSAB, those are assets that are either cash or can be turned into cash. And then when we take a look at the following slide, you will see who you owe money to on your financial liabilities. With some of your capital projects winding up throughout the year in 2025, there were just less amounts outstanding in your payables for construction invoices, your deferred revenue, obligatory reserve funds. That represents monies you've received for Canada Community Building Fund, provincial gas tax, parkland levies, and development charges. So you've received the cash, but you just haven't spent it in accordance with the various agreements there. So it doesn't come into revenue until you spend it in accordance with that. Your other deferred revenue represents funding you've received in advance of spending that for both your OCIF funding as well as some CMHC funding, and then as well too other grants, and as well too there's some money set aside in there for the building department as well. So that's makes up the $5.1 million. Your long-term debt, you will see, did increase year over year as you did receive a loan from FCM for new debt for the W.J. Henderson Recreation Complex. There was just some change in your landfill estimates, resulting in your asset retirement obligation decreasing. And then you have two amounts for future employee benefits that are calculated by an actuary. And those amounts did increase to about almost $2.6 million. So in total, you had about $60 million, almost $61 million in financial liabilities. And then on the following slide, you will see just the trend of your net financial assets / liabilities over the years, over the last 5 years. And what you will see a little later on in another slide is your capital spending from 23 to 25 was higher than it was. As a result, then really what you're doing is moving assets from financial assets into non-financial assets, so converting them into tangible capital assets, causing your net financial asset position to decline. And you can see that on the following slide, whereas these are your non-financial assets. So these are assets that you have that you hold and you that are utilized to provide services. So you don't, unlike financial assets, you don't try to turn them into cash. So you can see there the growth in your tangible capital assets from 2022 right to 2025. So you can see the investments you've been making into capital there, and those amounts growing. And then as well too, you have some other supplies and inventory and prepaid expenses, mainly insurance, that will be utilized in 2026. So that non-financial assets is about $281 million. The following slide gives you an idea of the total capital asset additions this year, and the $39.5 million noted there. When you take off the amortization of about $7.5 million, ties back into the net increase in your net financial assets. You will see on the previous page, and as noted in the treasurer's report later on. And you can see there the largest component was about $22 million spent on the W.J. Henderson complex, which is the majority of your asset additions in 2025. And then the following slide, as I mentioned earlier, you can see your capital asset additions in 23 to 25 were increasing and higher than they were in 2022. And then we come along to the summary of your accumulated surplus on the next slide. And overall, you will see there that on the detailed draft audited financial statements, the township is showing a $268.7 million accumulated surplus. But if you take a look at the components thereof, 242 million of that is tied up in your capital assets. So as a result, then these are the assets that you have and you're utilizing and not turning into cash, as I mentioned earlier. So that explains why you don't have $268 million in your bank account. It's there invested in other things. And that number represents the net book value of your assets less any liabilities associated with that, being your long-term debt, your asset retirement obligations, and your unfunded capital. And really the amounts, looking at the lower part, your reserve and your reserve funds. So these are the amounts that you can utilize moving forward into future years' budgets. And you can see there there's about a $4.1 million increase, and then the net increase of that is pretty much in the top line in your water and sewer line. So as for the rest of the reserves, even with adding a lot of capital this year, they remain fairly consistent. The following slide gives you an idea of your consolidated statement of operations, which breaks down your revenues and expenses on a PSAB-related basis, and then the lower part in the reconciliation gives you an idea of the items that are PSAB related that aren't within your operating budget, and the reconciliation you can see does bring everything down to zero. As a result, then within your budget as well, as of course for your tax rate budget, you're supposed to not be budgeting a surplus or deficit, whereas within the PSAB budget, there is a surplus showing there. And as you can see, items related to tangible capital assets, long-term debt, amounts in relation to loan proceeds and loan payments, and transfers to and from reserves are the major differences there. The following slide, you will see a summary of your revenues and expenses for the last 5 years. One thing to keep in mind under PSAB, to record revenue, so grants for capital projects like the W.J. Henderson project, that revenue is recorded in PSAB in the year that you've earned the revenue, meaning the year you spent those funds to earn those grants, whereas the expense will come later on when those facilities get depreciated. So that's why you can see the revenues are so much higher than the expenses in the last few years there. And then moving along to your financial activities. This slide is taken directly out of the detailed financial statements, and you can see there that in total, your actual revenues were coming in a fair bit higher than budgeted, and that's in relation mainly to capital grants for projects that started in previous years, where the grant revenue was recognized this year when it was spent. So that is mainly the variances in your Government of Canada line and your Province of Ontario line, as well as your other municipalities line. And of course, taxation being your largest revenue, and within your user charges, your water and wastewater charges are the major component within there. So in total, you had about $75 million in total revenue, up slightly from the previous year and higher than the budget. Then the following slide gives you an idea of where you spent your money. And this slide here is in PSAB format, so that this includes amortization, loss on disposal of some assets, changes in future employee benefits. So they're all flowing through there. But in total, you were coming in slightly higher than budget of almost $49 million in total actual expenses, in comparison to $47 million. There were some additional costs throughout the year in relation to contracted services as well. Within planning and development, there are some items, PSAB adjustments for adjustments to fair value of loans outstanding that are within the actuals that were not in the budget line. So, and then as well too, on the following slide, you will see there that like most municipalities, you provide your services with staff. So therefore, salaries and benefits are the largest component there. And in total, you were coming in slightly under budget there, and as well too with you can see there the amortization coming in higher than the previous year amount, and as well too some additional external transfers for community payments were higher than budgeted, and therefore causing some of the variance there. But in total, $49 million in actual expenses, up from the prior year and slightly from the budget. But overall, still with the increase in reserves, the township still had a good year and accomplished a lot of capital investments that will benefit the township in the future. So that is a summary of the audit and the audit results.
Thank you. Council, are there any questions related to the presentation? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation in our agenda. If someone would like to present a motion, Councillor Broderick.
And it would make a recommendation that the 2025 financial statements presented by Richard Steginja, CPA CA partner from Baker Tilly, be received.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Willis. Comments from the mover? None. Seconder? Other members? Call the question. All in favor? Motion has passed. Thank you for joining us and providing the information.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item up is statutory public meeting and recommendation report for Caitlin Corporation, Loyalist Estates, Phase 16, draft plan of subdivision D12-015 and zoning bylaw amendment D14-010, 2024. And I'll just read the preamble why everyone's coming up. A public meeting is being held in accordance with the provisions of 3412 of the Planning Act to consider a zoning bylaw amendment. Caitlin Corporation has submitted applications for a draft plan of subdivision and a zoning bylaw amendment. The proposed subdivision consists of 2 townhouse blocks for a total of 9 residential units. The proposed amendment to zoning bylaw 2001-38 as amended, seeks to rezone the subject lands from open space zone to residential type 5, exception 23 holding zone to facilitate the development of the proposed 9 townhouse units. Council shall hear in person or by their counsel, solicitor, or agent, any person who claims to be affected by this application. So.
Through you, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to give a quick overview of the proposed draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment application for Loyalist Estates, Phase 16. The subject lands are already designated medium density residential in the township official plan, which permits the proposed townhouse use and are currently zoned open space. The zoning bylaw amendment would rezone the lands to a site-specific residential zone with a holding symbol to facilitate the development by introducing appropriate performance standards. Following the statutory meeting held in August 2025, staff completed a detailed technical review of the applications through which the proposed zoning was then further refined. The applications were circulated to all the applicable internal divisions and external agencies, and the comments received have been addressed and were required, carried forward as conditions of the draft plan approval. The submission was supported by a full set of technical studies, which were peer reviewed where appropriate. This returned supportive outcomes, and the necessary requirements arising from them have also been incorporated as a part of the draft plan conditions. The proposed townhouses are compatible in size, scale, and character with the existing townhouse dwellings within the surrounding community. The proposal is also consistent with the provincial planning statement and conforms to both the county and township official plans. At the time of the meeting back in August 2025, no public comments were received. And as a part of the circulation for this meeting, neither any comments were received to date. So that being said, for all the reasons mentioned before, staff are recommending approval of both the zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan of subdivision applications, subject to the conditions outlined in the report. The consultant planner have also prepared a presentation to provide additional details, as well as to highlight changes made since the original submission. Thank you.
Thank you. And welcome to the meeting. If you're ready, you can go ahead with your presentation. The slides are up on the screen so we can see them as well.
Through you, Your Worship, thank you. My name is Liam Kofed, and I'm a senior planner with Macaulay Shiomi Howson. We are the planning applicant. We're the planning consultant for the applicant. I think Avinash did a pretty good job of describing what we're here for today. So I'm just going to jump right into the presentation here. So next slide, please. Perfect. So phase 16 is an approximately 0.427 hectare piece of land located at the northwest corner of Country Club Drive and Loyalist Boulevard in the village of Bath. It's outlined on red in on the screen in front of you here. The map shown identifies phase 16 in red in relation to the overall Loyalist Country Club Estates master phasing plan. We are currently in the final stages of the application process, with this being a public meeting to provide an update on minor revisions made to the phase 16 development as mentioned. After tonight's meeting, comments will be considered with technical comments, and a resubmission will be made to the town shortly afterwards. As Avinash stated, the site is zoned open space or OP zone under bylaw 2001-38. The initial layout remains largely the same, consisting of 9 townhouse dwelling units on 2 development blocks. The plan shown is the revised concept plan. One of the additions is a servicing block identified as block 3 on the updated plan, and that's at the south side, just adjacent to Loyalist Boulevard. And this has been included to provide connections to other areas. Details with respect to building siting, setbacks, walkways, driveway locations, among other items, have been reviewed and taken into account for the zoning bylaw. As mentioned, the site is currently zoned open space. A zoning amendment is required to rezone to a site-specific residential type 5 exception 23 zone to permit, with a holding, to permit the proposed townhouse development. There were initially 2 different site-specific zones proposed, but they have been replaced with a simplified site-specific zone category. The key revisions to the proposed zoning are highlighted on the slide. A front yard setback to a dwelling unit has been increased to 6 meters from the previously proposed 4 meters. The exterior side yard setback is now currently 3 meters, being requested at 3 meters, and this is to accommodate the servicing block. There is also relief requested from section 4.27C6 of the township's bylaw, which is related to the minimum separation requirements of a driveway from an interior lot line. There are 2 instances where 2 of the units have a side-by-side driveway, and as such, relief is required in this case. All other provisions remain the same as previously proposed. The slide before you provides an overview of the updates discussed. The applicant and township staff have worked together diligently with respect to the detailed review of the conceptual site plan to ensure all key elements are captured within the zoning bylaw to avoid the need for any future variances or modifications. As mentioned, we have been working collaboratively with township staff to finalize the proposed zoning provisions for the site. Staff provided conditions of draft approval, which have been reviewed and are acceptable to the applicant. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. So I looked at council. Are there any questions for the presenter at this time? Seeing none. Thank you for being here, and we are going to go ahead with the public meeting now. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the format that I'll use for this is the same one I use for all of them. We will go in chambers first. And anyone that wishes to speak to this can come forward and provide us with your information. And yes, and there's a limit of 3 minutes per person to speak. And then I will go into the virtual audience and ask the virtual audience if there's anyone that wishes to speak. If there is anyone in the virtual audience that wishes to speak, we just ask you use the raised hand feature so that we know to bring you into the meeting. So in chambers, is there anyone that wishes to speak to this item this evening? Yes, please come forward. You can have a seat right at the front here. If you just push the button so that the light comes on, then the virtual audience can hear you as well. Either one, wherever you like. There you go.
Good evening. My name is Wilma Pettingill, and I live on Loyalist Golf and Country Club, and am directly impacted by this proposed development of 9 high-end townhomes on a small 0.4 hectares of open space, not residential, wetland green space at the entrance to the golf course. We paid, along with many others, a premium for the view we have. That was important to us. I am not someone who opposes change and development, but when a small space of natural wetland is destroyed purely for money, we need to speak out. Enough is enough. We moved to Bath to be in the country and in a small community. Until the last years, there has been a balance of industry, business, housing, golfing, and green space. The small piece of land should have a welcome to Loyalist Golf Course sign on it, not packed with homes. These homes will destroy healthy trees, shrubs, homes for wildlife, birds, and many species of flowers, which are all thriving well. We no longer hear coyotes at nights, see deer on the course, and have raccoons entering homes because housing development has taken theirs. When I see a neighbor walking over to feed the rabbits, or the golf course team protecting turtle nesting in a sand trap and spraying cautiously to kill dangerous weeds but not others, we know we are in a community that cares and wants the balance with nature. Many making the decisions do not live in Bath or on the course and do not know what our community means to us. Have we been surveyed and asked views on this development? Have our elected officials come and talked to us in person who are directly impacted? I have not been asked. Many other surveys, as alluded to before my speech, have been completed, and there is always a way to justify development of this nature. Will we continue to lose power often as we did this past year? Will our water frequently be turned off? Will policing issues continue to rise? Will our fire ambulance services be at risk? Will parking and cluttering of our streets continue to escalate? So many questions that impact those of us who live in the area. Several months ago, we saw a surveyor in this green space tagging perfectly healthy trees and shrubs. When we asked him what was happening, he did not know. March 29th, I sent an email to the builder inquiring if anything was happening on this land, requested paperwork, drawings, etc. To this day, I have not received a response. Until I received this notice a few weeks ago in the mail, I did not know. The red dot on the paperwork shows it in front of one home. I know the red dot on the corner of this green space shows very small. It was not until I called the planning department here and asked questions did I receive the information and the actual layout going halfway up the street, not indicated at all in the letter. So here we are tonight. Just because someone has power, money, approvals to do something does not mean it's the right moral thing to do, especially when money is involved. Where is the integrity of the builder offering a premium lot and not honoring that? I hope those in the position to approve, not approve projects reflect on this and turn down the proposal. The Deputy Mayor spoke earlier this evening about community, mindedness, integrity, and trust of council. I hope that reflects in this issue as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I have a second letter from a neighbor who isn't able to read it. Is that something that I am able to read?
I'll allow it as a second
The individual is here. They
And-
forgot their glasses.
Okay. And the one thing I did want to mention is whoever speaks this evening, there is a board out in the hallway. If you could just please make sure and put your name down, and for the one that you're speaking for as well, if you could add their name so that we have the list of people that did present. So please proceed.
We live at 101 Britannia Crescent in Bath, across from Caitlin's 9 Townhome Project 16 development. We would like you to consider some important facts before approving this building project. The land being considered is a wetland wooded area offering protection to wildlife. Developing this area will leave the animals nowhere to live and be safe. This small parcel of woodland is the only green space left in our community. In this particular section of wetlands, we have seen deer, coyotes, foxes, ducks, all kinds of birds, including snow owls, butterflies, rabbits, and just this spring, a pair of timber wolves. Why in the world would our Loyalist Council members approve this thoughtless project and eliminate this last section of green space in our community? For years, residents have used this hill on Country Club as a recreation area for walking, running, biking, and walking entirely because of the green space between the golf course and the street. This recreation and wildlife habitat will all end with the construction of 9 townhomes. When our homes were sold to us, we all paid a premium for the view that this wooded area and the golf course provided. This area was to remain green space. Our taxes and property values for 20+ years have reflected this. The builder will understand clearly, wants to develop everything, including the green space, for dollars. We do, however, have a problem understanding why Loyalist Council would allow the builder to develop and destroy this only remaining wetland section to build these townhomes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in chambers that wishes to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'll go to the virtual audience. If there's anyone in the virtual audience that wishes to speak on this item, please use the raised hand feature so we can bring you into the meeting.
There are none.
No hands? Thank you. So that concludes the public meeting portion of this item. I'm just looking at staff. Are there any final comments that you wish to present?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll try to cover as much as I can, and Andrea and Luke, if you want to fill in the gaps, that would be appreciated. To start with the first comment about non-residential wetlands, the subject property specific to the phase 16, which is the scope of the today's application, approximately 0.4 hectares in area, is already designated medium density residential, and the official plan is already in place since years. It is also a part of existing golf course land, which is a private property owned by Caitlin Corporation. So I think the only reason these applications were required was to rezone from open space, which is the current zone, to a residential site-specific zone, and to fragment the land further as a part of the draft plan of subdivision. As a part of the complete applications, we have got environmental impact assessments, which confirmed that there are no environmental protection, species at risk, or any other vegetations or woodland at risk or within 120 meters of the subject property. In addition to that, neither of the official plan or zoning bylaw designates or zones this land as environmental protection, or even the land does not fall under any environmental sensitive areas, overlay, or regulated features. The application was also circulated to CRCA, the Cataraqui Region Conservation Authority, and they have also provided supportive comments for the development. In addition to that, all the studies, including noise, traffic, were done as a part of the complete application, and the supportive comments have been provided. I think the question about the wetland and wooded area was common by both the presenters. So I tried to answer that. Coming to the recreational area and especially the sidewalk component, during the construction, there would be some damage to the existing sidewalk, but as a part of the draft plan conditions and through the final design of the subdivision, the exits sidewalks would be reinstated, which would form a part of the public right-of-way or property. So the public will have access to that portion after the development as well. Other than that, all the properties have integrated garage and driveways, so sufficient parking as per the current zoning bylaw parking performance standards. A traffic impact study was also completed and independently peer reviewed. Both confirm that the existing road network can handle the additional traffic from this 9 units and that no intersection improvements are needed. Also, a noise study was completed and peer reviewed, and given the size of the development and the traffic volumes generated as such are low, no noise control measures were either provided. I think that concludes what I have to say. If you have any further questions, or if Andrea or Luke wants to add in.
Yes, through your worship. The only thing that I would add is in terms of the environmental impact statement that was done, it was not to say that there may not be a tree on the property or any wildlife that go through the property, but any of the significant wildlife or significant woodlands or any of those features like wetlands that are protected under the provincial planning statement and our official plan were not found on the property or within 120 meters of the property. And the last piece of set of comments were comments around hydro and emergency services, and I can confirm that both Emergency Services Department and Hydro One were circulated the applications and did not express any concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Turn to council. Are there any questions at this time? Councillor Willis.
Thank you, through your worship. We've had a number of planning applications in front of us that kind of suggest that council has the right to say no. But with the changes that have been done within the province with planning, if council said no to this application, what is the likely thing that the developer would do?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it can be appealed by the developer to Ontario Land Tribunal.
Okay.
Yes, carry on.
As a follow-up, is your experience that the township would win at the Ontario Land Tribunal if we tried to defend a decision not to allow this development to go forward?
Oh.
Through your worship to Councillor Willis, I don't think I can confirm what the board would decide, but what I can confirm is that typically when applications are appealed and staff support the application, staff would be subpoenaed by the applicant in order to speak in front of the tribunal. So in our professional opinion, it's consistent with the provincial planning statement and conforms with our official plan.
Thank you for that.
Any other? Councillor Parks.
Thank you. Through the mayor, just as a follow-up to staff. When that happens and township is responsible to defend the action, there's costs associated with that, legal costs, and that's paid by the taxpayers, correct?
Through your worship, if council wanted to then defend it again at the Ontario Land Tribunal against the applicant, then it'd be responsible for retaining legal legal counsel, as well as retaining their own professional planners, as staff wouldn't be able to represent the township.
Any other questions this evening for staff? Seeing none? Thank you. Oh,
Sorry.
yes, Councillor Parks.
Thank you. Just one more through the mayor. In regards to, one of the ladies had made a statement in regards to the development going halfway up the street. Can you, do you know how many houses would be affected from the east side of the street?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's starting right on the corner at the intersection of Loyalist Boulevard and Country Club Drive. It goes to the north to the Britannia Crescent, and a couple of houses beyond that is where the 9 units would end. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We're discussing now to make a motion. The public meeting had closed. Okay, any other questions this evening? Seeing none, I will look to council to present a motion. We do have a recommendation if that is what you wish. I make the second call. I would look for a motion to be presented this evening. Councillor Willis.
Sorry, it's very long. Oh. I move that the report from the Development Services Division, June 23rd, 2026 Republic meeting and recommendation report 2238052, Ontario Limited Caitlin Corporation, Loyalist Estates, Phase 16, Draft Plan of Subdivision, D12-015, zoning bylaw amendment be received, that bylaw 2026-33 being a bylaw to rezone the property found in part of lots 8, 9, and 10, concession 1 and broken front concession, and part of the road allowance between concession 1 and broken front concession designated as parts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, reference plan 29R-7458, save and accept part 1 on 29R-8211, part 1 on 29R-8210, part 1 on 29R-11377, subject to an easement as in LX 132826, former Village of Bath, now Loyalist Township, County of Lennox and Addington, from open space zone to residential type 5 exception 23 holding zone to facilitate the development of the proposed 9 townhouse units be enacted and passed, and that the Loyalist Estates Phase 16 draft plan of subdivision D12-015 be approved, subject to the conditions as provided in the attachment section of the staff report.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Parks. Mover, any comments?
I am not dull to the impact that this has on the people that are the homeowners in this area. And I'm very sorry that we don't actually have the ability to make any changes to this, even if we really wanted to, but it does meet all of the requirements that our professional staff have reviewed. So I'm sorry that we couldn't help you more, but our hands are very much tied.
Thank you. Seconder?
Thank you, through the mayor. I was actually going to share the same comments in regards to the application. Council really has no choice or doesn't have much of a choice in regards to these planning applications that come forward to us. And, you know, as much as I would like not to support it, I have to do what's in the best interest of the township. And that's what I'm voting on.
Thank you. Councillor Proderick.
I won't repeat what's already been said, but I will say this, that, and this is not the first time I've heard this, that unfortunately, Ms. Pettingale mentioned buying the property for the view and the moral of that. And unfortunately, the builder has decided that that's not in their best interest, I guess. And we can't control that. And again, the CRCA has, in the package, has no objections to the approval, official plan, zoning, et cetera, a staff report that recommends it. And the bottom line is OLT, we've had two opportunities in this term of council to deal with them when we're batting zero. And I think, again, that's a tough hill to climb there.
You, other members of council, any comments? Call the question. All in favor? Motion has passed. Okay, thank you. The next item up is open forum. So during open forum, any person may address council on a matter that is listed on the agenda, except items that were subject to the statutory public meeting. Anyone wishing to speak at the council meeting can register in advance, which I don't believe we had any due. Or I will again call for in chambers. If anyone wishes to speak through open forum, they may. And then I will go to the virtual audience and ask that if you raise your hand, we will bring you into the meeting. So. Then. Sorry, I'll just give a moment. Let's just head out if you want to. Thank you. Okay, so I will open it up in chambers for open forum. If anyone wishes to speak under open forum, please come forward and you can share your information. Seeing none, I will go to the virtual audience. If there's anyone in the virtual audience that wishes to address council this evening, please use the raised hand feature and we can bring you into the meeting.
There are none in the virtual audience.
Thank you. That concludes open forum. Next is delegations and Mike Costa with the Sherwood Road Bus Shelter alteration. And welcome. Once it's ready, you can just have a seat and push the button so the lights come on, and then the virtual audience can also hear you. And whenever you're ready, you can just go ahead.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, township staff. My name is Miguel Costa. I'm more commonly known as Mike. I live at 42 Briscoe Street in Amherstview. I have lived there with my family for 24 years. It is my second home in Amherstview. My delegation tonight focuses on the reconstruction project on Sherwood Avenue and Park Crescent, in particular, the sidewalk and bus stop improvements. I will note just before I proceed, you will note the first image there shows the billboard that is placed at the intersection of Manitou and Sherwood and Amherstview. You will note on that billboard, there is no reference to sidewalks being done anywhere. I want to be clear. Oh, this isn't going. My 10 minutes is ticking. I want to be clear that this is not opposition to infrastructure renewal. I've lived on that corner for 24 years. I have seen my neighbors struggle in the wind and the rain and the snow and the cold, waiting for the bus. I have seen neighbors with mobility issues have to wait out on the road because there's no access for them to use buses. This is a problem. We need to fix it. My concern is not the project. My concern is the gap behind how this project was presented to you as council for your review and approval and how the work is actually carried out. These impacts go beyond what is reasonable and what I think reasonable-minded residents of Loyalists and Canadians, and I respectfully would say our courts, would expect from routine like-for-like replacement. My goal is to ensure that you as council understand these impacts and your decisions, what they have done to the enjoyment of the property to my family and myself. I think this is more about the process, and that the process as currently designed will not give us outcomes. You hear tonight what happens when processes don't really work. Township clerk, and I thank the township clerk for their assistance, June 9th this year, provided me with written correspondence in response to my questions about this project. The work was classified as routine, like for like replacement. But because of this classification, because of this label, this project now is exempt from formal consultation. And because of that, it is assigned an informed level of engagement with ratepayers. Informed level. That classification assumes minimal predictable impacts from the project with no need for consultation with homeowners. However, the outcome of this does not hold up to this explanation. You will note there on the pictures, what you see there is the previous sidewalk, flat, level, easy to mow by the guy here who's been mowing it for 24 years. And now what has been designed there. Residents were notified. Yes, we were. On the 9th of June, a notice was dropped in our mailbox and a staff member talked with me for 5 minutes in the driveway. We were notified. This is not meaningful engagement. There was no opportunity to review detailed designs or drawings and understand the impact as the homeowner who lives beside this project on what this would mean for me and my family. As a matter of fact, I was only provided drawings tonight after repeated requests of the township to be informed as what's being built beside my house. Without clear information, residents cannot assess or raise concerns. Engagement should reflect actual impacts and not just project classifications. One of the most significant changes is the elevation of now the sidewalk. This pedestrian corridor has been raised approximately 2 feet or 600 millimeters. While that may seem minor on paper in engineering drawings, in practice, it has created a higher vantage point. It has basically created an observation platform for individuals now to look into our backyard. Pedestrians can now look directly into my yard where they could not before. For over 25 years, my backyard was private and fully screened. That privacy was a stable, established condition. Today, key areas, including our hot tub and main sitting areas, are completely visible from the sidewalk. This represents a fundamental change in how our property is experienced and enjoyed. You'll notice there in the photos, the first picture is my wife sitting on the balcony on the back of our house. This is from the height of what the previous sidewalk was. This is now, the second picture is now what is visible from the new sidewalk that's been developed. This next images clearly show the difference before and after construction. What was once private is now exposed. The change in sightlines is a key issue. It is not the presence of the sidewalk. This has permanently changed how we use our property. Activities that were once routine now require awareness of public visibility. It affects comfort, privacy, and our own sense of security in our own backyard. These are lasting impacts, not temporary construction issues. I'm sorry here, it looks like this. Yes, here we are. Beg your pardon. This has permanently changed how we use our property. You'll notice there that image, the image there of me waving over the fence. Well, that's the new height of the sidewalk. That's what people see now when they walk by our home. My 6-foot fence is now effectively a 4-foot fence. The absence of formal impact assessments, the township advised in the clerk's letter that there was no formal impact assessments conducted. That includes no assessment on the impacts of privacy, sightlines, drainage, and elevation impacts. Without assessment, impacts cannot be identified or mitigated in advance. This highlights a gap in how routine projects are evaluated. In fairness, not one township employee came to us and said, hey, what's your experience on this corner? The first time I spoke to anyone is when I had to protest and refuse to leave the construction site until township staff arrived, along with the police. Residents should not have to engage in protests to get answers from staff. Information sharing. Sorry, this appears to have come in twice. Information sharing and design transparency. Design drawings existed, but they were never shared. Repeated requests, and only tonight they were delivered at my door 45 minutes before this meeting. Residents were expected to request information they did not even know existed. Visual communication is essential for understanding changes like elevation, and early transparency would have helped misunderstandings and conflicts. This delegation acknowledges that informal discussions with township representatives did occur, but respectfully, these were not sufficient. A 5-minute discussion, casual discussion in one's driveway is not a sense of informing a resident on the potential changes to a property immediately beside theirs. Residents need explicit details to understand measurable changes. Engagement quality, not just quantity, is what matters. It's not the amount of doors you knock on and notices you hand out. It's the conversations you're having with those people and how you're informing residents of what's happening. My delegation in response, I request from council a review of the project classification and confirm if this project should be considered routine like for like given its final design and impacts. A review of the engagement approach. Assess whether inform was appropriate or meaningful based on the changes that are happening. Provide design transparency. Explain elevation decisions, alternatives considered, and share the final drawings, which I did receive tonight, so thank you for that. But most importantly, and I think an area in which we need to really work, is to ensure that processes capture projects that have real impacts on adjacent properties. Township Council, this change and this project was buried in the 2026 hot asphalt, concrete, and bitumen replacement cycle, our roads project. This project design and drawings were buried and hidden in there like an omnibus bill to which you approved. And respectfully, I don't think you knew or had awareness of the impacts of this and how our right to enjoy our property is negatively affected by the decisions this council and township have taken in this regard. I would like, and I will, in acknowledging also the clerk's help, is the help of Road Supervisor Kyle Labbit, who has been very helpful in talking with us. But we want mitigation measures, and we want this addressed, and we want to be made whole. Our privacy should not have to be given up because township wanted to change a sidewalk that was perfectly fine. There was no issue there. And respectfully, yes, we need to improve township or transit supports and bus shelters and all the rest. But that bus shelter has 4 riders a day. And I know this because my security camera on the side of the house picks up every time someone stands out there. And the reason it only has 4 riders a day, because if you catch the bus on that stop, you're riding for 20 minutes through Amherstview before you leave. Across the street is where the volume of ridership is, because at that stop, it takes a minute and then you're out of Amherstview. Such a large structure beside my house was not required. And if it was, fine. but just a respect for the people that have been cutting the grass there for 24 years. And now we have our privacy, our peace, and our security impacted because of this decision. I would like in writing from council how our impacts are going to be mitigated and how township council, or how township will make this right for us. I thank you for your time. I thank you for the opportunity for the delegation. And I thank you all for your continued work for all of us in the council, in Loyalist Township.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that forward, providing the information. I would just look to council. Are there any questions for clarification on the presentation? Councillor Broderick.
Thank you. And through your worship, Mr. Costa, thank you for your presentation. You sort of were on two tracks there. You talked about process and then you talked about mitigation. So in a process line, give me just sort of like your Coles notes of a process that you would see, you know, down the road in the future. What would, in your opinion?
Yeah. I think that in fairness, you know, this is road allowance. I have no right to that. I get that absolutely. But I think the qualifier is the degree of impact and the work that's being done. I think calling it like for like is not factual. I think looking at the project from impacts to immediate adjacent homeowners is the issue. 4 other people in this intersection are impacted. Those 4 people now have driveways that are markedly lower than the new sidewalk. They are going to be impacted. They were advised to move their cars and the loss of their driveway the day of. No advance notice. So, Councillor Broderick, I think for me, a process in which these things are not buried inside budget bills. When there's projects that are immediately adjacent to private homeowners' property, there needs to be a higher level of scrutiny there, even if they are in right-of-ways that the township has full control of. The fact that this is butting against my property is at issue. The fact that it is now a vantage point for people to look right into my backyard is a problem. Yeah, I guess I'll just have to make sure I'm wearing shorts when I'm in the hot tub.
Well, that sort of leads into my next question about mitigation. In your specific case, what would be your view on that? You know, is it fencing? Is it whatever?
I think in fairness, the mitigation is since the fence height was adequate previous to this construction, we have now increased by roughly 2 feet. I think an opportunity for me to have the fence replaced along the easement of the sidewalk at the appropriate height of 8 feet, that then would give me that additional 2 feet that I've lost with the elevation of the sidewalk. Thank you.
Any other questions from council this evening? Being none, I would take a motion this evening to receive the presentation, the delegation. Councillor Broderick? And go ahead. Yep. Sorry.
I would move that council receive the presentation from Mr. Cost in regards to the Sherwood Road bus shelter alteration.
So moved. Seconded by Councillor Budrick. Mover, any comments?
No, I think I've heard what I need to hear and I've said what I need to say.
Thank you. Seconder, any comments?
I spoke with Mr. Cost a couple times on this argument, and I do agree with his issues. They are very valid. Yes, I can understand that.
Other members of council? Councillor Willis.
Would it be appropriate to ask for a staff report on how this could be addressed in the way of mitigation?
Yes, it would.
If I could do a friendly amendment to that effect?
If you want to present a friendly amendment, we'll see if it's accepted. Your friendly amendment is just to request a staff report. Thank you. Mover?
I'm okay with that.
Seconder? It's friendly, it'll be added. Thank you. Other members of council, any comments? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you for being here and presenting this to us. You're welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting, or you can go whenever you please. It's riveting. Next item up, 2025 audited financial statements. Welcome. Is there any additional information that you have this evening?
Not at this time, Mr. Mayor. Just if there's any questions, we're happy to answer.
Okay. So I'll ask if there's any questions for clarification for staff this evening. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Councillor Parks.
Thank you. I would recommend that the report for the Finance Department dated June the 28th, 2026, read the 2025 year-end financial statements be received, the draft 2025 audited statements be approved, the draft 2025 audited trust fund financial statements be approved, the 2025 audited financial statements be filed by staff with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and the 2025 audited financial statements be made available to the public and posted on the township's website.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Budrick. Mover, any comments?
No, I just thank the department for all the work that they do with this.
Seconder, any comments?
No comments.
Other members of council? I will just say thank you as well. From what the auditors spoke, it's true, there has been some turnover in the department, and yet staff were all ready and had everything to go. So it helped to move along very efficiently. So thank you very much. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. Purpose-built rental housing community improvement grant application. Did I miss one? Yep, I did. Thank you. You're taking Nathan's place. Reminding me. Okay. Legislated options for council vacancy. Welcome. Do you have anything additional to add this evening?
Through the mayor, I do not have anything additional to add, but if you have any questions about the process or anything that would go forward with this, I'm happy to answer anything you have.
Thank you. Councillor Prodrick.
I was just going to suggest, your worship, since I've already made my intentions known for the fall, that I just don't want to participate in this discussion. Is that fair? I can participate in it, but I'm certainly not eligible for anything indicated here.
Okay. That's your call, what you want to do. But I think for the greater good of the community, your participation is permitted, but I understand if you, when it comes to the actual chosen option, you may have your own opinions there. And I look to the clerk for.
And through the mayor, just to provide some clarity, we won't be deciding on the actual appointment tonight. This is just deciding on the process that we go about to get to that appointment.
Thank you. So, are there questions for clarification? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion this evening. Councillor Willis.
Thank you. Through your worship, I would move that the report from the Clerk's Division dated June 23rd, 2026, re-legislated options for council vacancy be received, that council receive Deputy Mayor Nathan Townend's resignation letter dated June 15th, 2026 in Appendix A, that pursuant to Section 262 of the Municipal Act, council declare the office of the Deputy Mayor vacant, and that council direct staff to undertake option 1 to fill the Deputy Mayor vacancy for the remainder of the 2022 to 2026 council term.
So moved. seconded by Councillor Parks. And I would just, with choosing this option, I would just ask that any council member that has a suggestion, if this passes, that reach out to the clerk, probably by the end of this week, if you could, so that he could compile the list and start acting on it, rather than put names out in a public meeting. So mover, any comments?
No, just and for the sake of the public that don't know what option one is, perhaps it's that council may direct staff and or council members to propose the names of individuals who may be interested in filling the vacancy, who have previously held a position on township council or senior leadership. I just think this is the cleanest way to address it, given how close we are to an election, and it leaves the current councillors to do whatever they're going to do.
Thank you. Seconder?
I just share the same opinion. I think this is the best option that's available, just because of the tight timeframe, with the elections coming.
Councillor Prater?
I'm just not clear, and just so I know, senior leadership is defined as what?
What we've set out is either former chief administrators or directors would be available if their name was put forward.
Other members of council? Any questions or comments? Councillor Ennis?
Yeah, through the mayor, just to echo that I'm also supportive of option one. I think it, as others have said, is the cleanest.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? Back, Councillor Budrick?
I'll echo all the comments that my fellow councillors made. That is the best option for now,
Thank you.
given the circumstances.
Yes, thank you. So I'll go back to the mover. Any final comment?
No, thank you.
Call a question. All in favor? Motion is passed.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Mayor. Would we be able to get a brief recess?
Yes,
Perfect.
absolutely. We'll recess for 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, so after that short break, we're going to reconvene with the council meeting. The next item up is the proposed amendments to the affordable and purpose-built rental housing CIP. Welcome. Did you have additional information to share this evening?
Just happy to entertain any questions from council.
Thank you. So with this, I'll ask if there's any questions for clarification before we bring a motion onto the floor. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Councillor Prodrick.
Sorry to disappoint you, David. That the report from the Corporate Services Strategy and Innovation Department dated June 23rd, 2026, re-amendments to the Affordable and Purpose-Built Rental Housing CIP be received, and that council directs staff to develop the draft Affordable and Purpose-Built Rental Housing CIP amendments as recommended in preparation for a statutory public meeting.
So moved. I have a seconder. Councillor Budrick, sorry. Any comments from the mover?
No, just thanks to the report.
Thank you. Seconder?
No, same. Very good. Thank you.
Other members of council? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Next up is Purpose-Built Rental Housing Community Improvement Plan Grant Application 2026-01. Any questions for clarification on this one? You do? Councillor Willis?
Thank you, through your worship. This project has been a long time in the planning. Have they broken ground? Do we know that these units are actually getting built right now?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So there are permits for the 5 blocks of 4 townhomes, and I believe that from my last conversation with the developer, they are mobilizing to break ground ASAP if they haven't already.
Yes.
When the public meetings were held for this project, was it known at the time that these were going to be rental units instead of owned homes?
Through your worship to Councillor Willis, if I recall correctly, I don't think the tenure necessarily came up as much. They were semi-detached homes, was the original intent, and then just shown visually as such, which the typical would be the 1 unit on each side. Since that time, the developer is proposing additional residential units, which comply with the zoning bylaw. So they are able to do that, even though that may have not have been his original plan.
Councillor
Thank you.
sorry, you're done? Councillor Broderick, did you have a question?
Hey, just one question on Schedule D for my simple little world. Can you just explain in layman's term the idea of the default per unit, per dwelling unit, what that means? I'm just looking at, like, I interpret it as that's what's due every year, and if you default, like, I don't know what the default is throwing me off.
Sure, it's through you, Mr. Mayor. So this table shows that in the year that a default occurs, that's how much per unit would be paid back as a one-time payment. So if they defaulted in year 3 for all 20 units, it would be 20 times that figure.
Yes.
And just in the terms of the default, are we talking, so they have basically broken the 15-year rental tenure? Is that what a default is?
That's one example, or demolished the unit or started using it for Airbnb, like short-term accommodation rather than long-term.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for clarification? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Would someone like to put it on the floor? Councillor Broderick.
Sure. Recommend that the report from Corporate Services Strategy Innovation Department dated June 23rd, 2026, repurpose-built rental housing community improvement plan CIP grant application 2026-01 be received, and that council approve the PBR CIP grant application 2026-01, utilizing available Housing Accelerator Fund budget resources as recommended by staff, and that council authorize the mayor and CAO to execute the attached CIP agreement that details the terms and conditions for the property owner to adhere to in order to receive the grant.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Willis, any comments from the mover?
None.
Seconder? Other members? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. Next up, Asset Management 2026 Annual Review. Good evening. Do you have anything additional to share this evening?
The only thing I would point out is in recommendation number 1 is the title of the department needs to be corrected. Put in the wrong title. But it should be Corporate Services Strategy and Innovation Department versus my title. But if we could correct that on the approval, that would be on recommendation number 1 of the report.
We have Corporate Services and Strategic Innovations Department.
Strategy and Innovation Department, right?
Okay. Okay, it's good on the screen, so, okay,
Happy to answer any questions about the report.
thank you. Are there any questions for clarification? Seeing none- Oh, Councillor Broderick?
Just in Appendix A, Alex. And just for my own information, there's a series of items that refer to the WJ and arena ice system, lobby and electrical, site services, plumbing, building, et cetera, et cetera. Is that something that is on top of what's being done as a project? Like, where does that fit in, I guess, is like replacement of certain things? Where does that fit in terms of, you know, we just had all this work done and then it looks like there's more to be done. I'm focusing right now on the lobby and the electrical.
Yeah,
So where does that fit, I guess, in
Yeah.
the whole project thing?
So the way the capitalization works is we don't take the assets out of our system until the project's actually complete, and then it's capitalized. So it will be capitalized at the end of 2026 as part of our year end. I would say the vast majority of those items that are identified as WJ Henderson are being addressed as part of the project.
Yes.
Just again, in Appendix C, and it's no big deal, but I'm just interested in the fluctuation of sidewalk renewals. Like one year it's in the 200,000, then it's in the 4 million, and then it drops down again. Is there going to be a year where there's going to be a lot of sidewalks built and refurbished in Amherst-View?
So part of the issue with the way the system was initially set up is that we use pooled assets. So we had they basically came up with an average age of the sidewalks that they didn't know what the dates were. And they're starting to show up now in the longer term as to needing to be replaced. The reality is they will all be assessed and determine which ones actually need to be replaced. It's just the system is starting to trigger the average age of the pooled asset is coming up for replacement versus individual assets. So.
Any other questions for clarification? Seeing none, there's a recommendation before us. I would entertain a motion. Councillor Willis.
I move that the report from the Corporate Services Strategy and Innovation Department dated June 23rd, 2026, Asset Management 2026 Annual Review be received, and that council endorse the following recommendations arriving from the 2026 Annual Review. A, that future inflationary adjustments used within the township's asset management program be based on the non-residential building construction price index, the NRB CPI, rather than the consumer price index, CPI. And B, that we direct staff to consider and incorporate the following into the draft 2027 budget. a 1.4% increase to the general rate levy dedicated solely to reducing the infrastructure funding gap for general rate supported assets, and a 1.8% increase to general rate capital contributions and fleet capital contributions based on the NRB CPI inflation adjustment for the latter half of 2025.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Broderick. Mover, any comments?
No.
Seconder?
No.
Other members of council? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. Next up is draft zoning bylaw comprehensive review. Welcome. Did you have anything additional to share this evening?
No, nothing further to share. Just happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for clarification the council has on this item? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion put forward on the floor. Do I have a mover? Councillor Broderick.
I would move that the report from the Development Services Division dated June 23rd, 2026, read draft zoning bylaw comprehensive review be received, and that council authorize the release of the draft zoning bylaw for public and agency comments.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Broderick. Mover, any comments?
None, just thank you.
Seconder? Other members of council? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. Establish a part of a public highway Main Street path. Welcome. Did you have anything additional to share?
Just here to answer questions, Your Worship.
Very good. Are there any questions for clarification this evening on this item? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion if someone would like to put it on the floor. Councillor Willis.
I move that the report from the Engineering and Environment Division dated June 23rd, 2026 I'm dead.
Here, allow me.
Pardon me.
Oh,
I move that the report from the Engineering and Environment Division dated June 23rd, 2026 re-establish a part of the public highway Main Street path be received, and two, that bylaw 2026-37, a bylaw to establish Part 1 and Part 2 on Plan 29R-11605, being part of PIN 45133-0959 as part of the public highway known as Main Street path, be enacted and passed.
So moved. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Broderick, any comments from the mover? Seconder? Other members? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Loitus Link Pilot Program Extension Report. Welcome. Did you have anything additional to share?
Nothing further, just here for questions.
Thank you. Were there any questions for clarification this evening on this item? Councillor Willis.
Thank you, through your worship, and forgive me because I did math. Just based on my calculations, it's looking like each ride on Loyalist Link right now is costing about $22, which I know that there's some plans to bring some efficiencies into the service. Is there also a strategy to increase the ridership or an expectation that that ridership will increase so that that cost per ride is going to come in line with something more reasonable?
Through your
Yes.
worship. I'm not sure which numbers you ran, but you're in the ballpark. They're not quite that amount. The ones that I ran, they were about $1,750. To answer your question, yes, there is plans to increase ridership. We're trying to do that. Hopefully, through the as presented, we're looking at on demand, which could bring some efficiencies. and might increase ridership as well.
Dr. Campbell, did you have additional information?
Sorry, just in addition to what Director McFarland has said, we are limited right now in some of our actions that we can take while we're waiting to have the final OTIF application submitted to the province, because we have to remain in pilot status. So some of those opportunities may come to fruition a little bit more in terms of encouraging the growth of the ridership and that sort of thing once we have an idea of whether we'll be receiving that funding or not as well.
Any other questions for clarification? Seeing none, we do have I entertain a motion. Councillor Broderick.
Thank you. I would move that the report from Public Transportation Division dated June 23rd, 2026, Loyalist Link Pilot Program Extension Report be received, and the council approve the extension of the Loyalist Link Pilot Program to September 3, 2027 to maintain uninterrupted service while the township awaits the outcome of the Ontario Transit Infrastructure Fund application, and that staff report back to council with updated financial projections and service performance metrics following the release of the OTIF funding decision and funding for the extension of the Loyalist Link service to be provided through provincial gas tax allocations and fares.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Parks. Mover, any comments?
Yes, of course. I remember going out for a early morning ride with Director Campbell around the first few weeks and, sort of thinking, we're going to be the only two on here, but the data supports some growth. And I think that was the original thing we were worried about was, would people come thinking, oh, this is only going to last a year? We're not going to change our habits, but I think we're heading in the right direction. And not as eloquently as our previous private person, Nathan stated, this is one thing I'm really proud that this council has done, is looked into that, and I hope that we can continue this down the road, because I think it's a viable service. And through personal experience, anytime you can get my kid on public transit, we're doing something right.
Thank you. Seconder, any comments? Other members of council? See none, call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. Loyalist Township Emergency Services and Bylaw Enforcement 2025 Annual Report. Welcome. Did you have anything additional to share this evening?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight a couple things. This was kind of a glimpse into a year of growth, a year of a lot going on in the emergency services department. Straight across the board, a special big thanks to all the staff involved, the firefighters, the bylaw officers, and all the township staff that do emergency management off the side of their desk and just as an extra on top of their already busy schedules. So, there was a lot accomplished last year. I won't go through the report. It's fairly long, but we're seeing a lot of positives out there. Call volumes are increasing. That's out of our control. But our people are reacting really well. We're seeing better turnouts, better response times. We're just a lot of good things. So we feel we're in a growing and healthy state. When we look at our recruitment drive, seeing 58 applicants for our paid on-call firefighter positions, that's a really, really positive sign in a community where we have people, knocking down the door wanting to join us. So we're happy to see that. We're really happy in the direction. And again, kudos to all the staff, and we really appreciate all their work.
Thank you. Are there any questions for clarification on the report? Councillor Broderick.
Not really a clarification. Well, I guess it's a clarification. I'm just interested, Chief, what is part 3 of a provincial offense?
Part 3 would be going to court. Yeah. We try not to.
Any other questions for clarification? Councillor Willis.
Thank you, through your worship. I know that we're often responding to emergency calls in other jurisdictions and they do as that, us as well. With the opening of the new battery storage that's really on the border with Bath, have your crews received special training for that? Or is there a plan for it? And who would be paying for that training?
Yes, so we have been in communication with Greater Napanee Fire on that project. So we did have training set up probably about a month and a half ago, which did end up getting canceled. So we haven't done it yet. We're still in communication with them to reschedule that training and go out there. We'll be doing it as part of our regular training schedule as far as our people, because we will be the first ones there as part of our automatic aid agreement with Greater Napanee. So that'll be just the distance for us compared to them. We'll be the first ones. So we're continuing to follow that up.
Any other questions for clarification? Being none, there's a recommendation with the report. Would someone like to make a motion? Councilor Broderick?
Recommendation that the report from the Emergency Services Department dated June 23rd, 2026, is that a typo there? Yeah, I just want to make sure. 2026 Loyal Township Emergency Services 2025 annual report be received.
So moved. Seconded by Councilor Willis. Any comments from the mover?
I just have one, and I was impressed, being a former educator, to see the amount of training that's gone on for all the sites in the past year, and wish you well on continuing that. Very aggressive for the new 58 or 17 fighters that you hired in.
Seconder? Other members of council? I just want to mention, thank you for the extensive report, a lot of information and a lot of good information, very positive. And like you said, I keep referring back to the number of people that want to join now and be a part of the team is very encouraging. So thank you. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. Now it's time to go into the committee of the whole. So the deputy is designated in the bylaw as the chair, so we will have to appoint a chair for the committee of the whole. Councilor Broderick.
I would move that council resolve in the committee of the whole and appoint mayor as the chair for this meeting.
Okay, so moved, seconded by Councilor Parks. Anybody have comments on that or? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Okay. We don't have any name tags to switch around. So I'll call the committee of the whole to order at 8:06. Any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof in the committee of the whole? Seeing none. First item up, community gardens policy. So welcome. Whenever you're ready, you can please go ahead and proceed.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. So we have a short presentation just to prepare and share some information in regards to the rationale for the policy development, and also some information with regards to the initial site selection for the initial gardens development. Okay, so as you're aware, this initiative was identified in the 2024 to 2027 strategic plan, identifying community gardens as a key initiative under the Strong Communities priority area. Council recognizes their role in promoting access to fresh food, social connection, community well-being. Community gardens also support broader municipal objectives as well by enhancing quality of life fostering inclusive and welcoming neighborhoods, and strengthening partnerships amongst residents, community organizations, and local stakeholders. These spaces also contribute to environmental sustainability, encourage local food production, and provide accessible recreation opportunities for residents of all ages and abilities. Additionally, in February 2026, the township applied for and was successfully in securing a community grant of $15,000 to support the development of the initial community garden project. And following that approval of the community grant, a public consultation exercise was developed to help inform the development of the policy and determine preferred site locations. Additionally, the survey provided an opportunity for community members to express an interest in participation as a garden volunteer. And staff have compiled those contacts and intend to engage with them as the project proceeds as well. So just in terms of the purpose of this policy is to establish a clear and consistent framework which will guide the development, operation, and ongoing management of community gardens on township-owned or township-approved lands. Community gardens, as I mentioned, support local food security, community well-being, environmental stewardship, and social connection. Additionally, the policy identifies the application requirements and process for those that are interested in developing a community garden on township-owned lands in the future. And finally, this report provides a location recommendation for the establishment of the first township-supported garden. So as I mentioned, this past April, the township did undertake a public engagement exercise through the Engage Loyalist platform, where we invited residents to provide feedback on garden design, policy considerations, site preferences, and ongoing management models. The input that was gathered there through the engagement process was used to guide both policy development and site selection recommendations for the initial garden, ensuring the initiative reflects community needs and priorities. So that engagement process took place from April 2nd until April 24th. And during the survey period, 61 residents completed the survey, offering their feedback on garden design, governance structure, operating principles, and site preferences. The survey data indicated strong interest in community garden participation, with just 14% of respondents indicating they would be unlikely to use a community garden, and more than half of the participants providing their contact information to be further engaged on the garden once it's developed. The primary interest for participating in community gardens was to grow fresh produce to support others or community organizations, followed closely by those that are interested in growing for their own consumption, while a number of respondents also expressed an interest in participating in a community activity. So in addition to the public survey, we also developed a partner survey, which was developed and sent to organizations that serve in the township in the spheres of emergency food provision, public health, social services, and agriculture. And these contacts were sourced through the township's local food working group. So from that survey, we gained additional insight into potential partnership opportunities that could be explored and how those organizations might be able to support or benefit from the community gardens in the township. And then our final public engagement activity was a visioner tool, which we saw ideas from community members to determine what they felt made a good community garden. So just as a bit of an overview of the policy, so the resulting draft community gardens policy provides a balanced and practical approach to enabling community gardens while also protecting municipal interest and ensuring accountability. The policy supports community-led growing initiatives, but does so within a framework that addresses land use compatibility as well, operational responsibilities, and risk management. Rather than directly operating community gardens, the township would act as a facilitator by establishing approval processes, identifying suitable sites in partnership with garden groups, supporting the consultation efforts, and setting expectations for governance and maintenance. This approach allows groups of volunteers to lead projects while ensuring that the gardens on municipal lands remain consistent with township standards and broader public use objectives. To apply, any garden group can complete the application form, which is included in the policy you'll see. It would be available both online and in printed versions where they can describe their proposal. Applications can be accepted year-round, but due by October 31st to give parks staff adequate time to evaluate the suitability of the sites that they're requesting and prepare for the following growing season. And then site selection would be guided by the township's zoning bylaw and a collaborative assessment, which the township and garden group identify viable sites and prepare a site plan. covering plot and accessible plot layouts, structures, soil and pathway materials, setbacks, accessibility design standards, and circulation through departments that are affected. We'd also include neighborhood consultation with the township, ultimately reserving final authority regarding the sites. On governance and compliance, each garden group would sign a 5-year land use agreement with an option to renew and agree to develop, operate, and maintain the garden in line with the policy. At a minimum, this keeps a governance structure with a designated gardening coordinator and alternate contact. Those could be updated annually with the township, just as a way to set fair and transparent procedures for things such as plot allocations, wait lists, conflict resolution, reassigning abandoned plots, and operating on the site plan that was signed off by the township. Just to cover some of the roles and responsibilities as well that we've spoken about. So this slide just sets out some of those responsibilities for community gardens, how it's shared across the policy. It reflects the approach that I just spoke about, where the township acts as a facilitator rather than an operator of the gardens, enabling and supporting those community-led gardens while protecting municipal interests and establishing lines of accountability. So the township's role would be focused on enabling and oversight with staff review and approving of the applications to establish the gardens, provide guidance, and support the garden groups through the application and operating process, and to offer ongoing oversight to ensure gardens remain consistent with township standards and the broader public use of parks. When an application is approved, the township also makes use of suitable township owned land available to the garden group, but it does not take on the day-to-day responsibilities of running the garden themselves. That's where the garden groups would come in. So they carry the operational responsibility, and those volunteer-led groups would be led by a community garden coordinator and an alternate admin contact, in accordance with the conditions of use that are laid in the policy. And the groups can apply to the township to establish a community garden, and once approved, they operate, maintain, and govern the garden, including coordinating the group and managing plot allocations. Each group is also responsible for reporting and compliance within the policy, which keeps the township informed and ensures gardens continue to meet expectations year over year. Through the application process, the groups can identify the proposed garden model they plan to run as well. So that could be a plot allocation model, a shared model, or perhaps a hybrid model, or an education-based model as well. So there's a number of different ways that those gardens could be managed. And then finally, the individual gardeners would tend the plots and be responsible for maintaining the plots and for contributing to the shared upkeep of the common areas as well throughout the gardens, pathways, shared facilities. The shared expectation of care would be to keep the garden healthy and welcoming for everyone and spread the workload across all members rather than relying on just a few volunteers. And taken together, these collective responsibilities create clear roles for everyone involved in the process. And so that deals with most of the policy recommendations. The next side of things would be the initial site selection process. So as part of the public consultation process, respondents were given a map tool and asked to drop a pin on the location that they thought would be ideal for the development of community garden. Through that process, we received a total of 61 suggestions, with some locations receiving multiple votes. For reference, the W.J. Henderson property received the most votes with 11. The location with the second highest number of votes was Centennial Park in Amherst-View, followed by Loyalist Park, also in Amherst-View. The suggested locations were then filtered based on survey respondents who had indicated that they had an interest in participating as a gardener. When we consulted with other groups that have successfully implemented community garden policies, they indicated that when evaluating potential sites for community gardens, the presence of interested in community gardeners is the most critical success factor they've found. So that's why we filtered it based on those respondents that identified as interested gardeners. And after that filtering, we were left with 14 potential sites, which then was reduced to 8 when considering things like zoning restrictions, future projects which could impact the gardens, and parks that might be too small and restrictive to accommodate a garden. So with that list of 8 potential sites, the Parks Department was then provided with a weighting scoring criteria that was developed using feedback from the public survey. identifying what survey respondents felt to be the most important features of successful gardens. So they were asked about things like sun exposure, access to parking, proximity to public facilities, proximity to residential areas, walkability, accessibility. So parks use their expertise of the 8 parks to score each park individually based on these factors. And with that, the top ranked parks were the W.J. Henderson property, followed closely by Lakeview Park, and then by Babcock Mill Park. So while the precise location for the garden location is still to be determined through discussions with the Engineering and Environment Division and the Parks and Facilities Division, it's felt that the most suitable location would be somewhere on the southwestern side of the W.J. Henderson property. Just to note, the arrow there is pointed towards an area where there's a fill pile at the moment. So just tried to give the general sense of the location of the area that's being proposed, but it might not necessarily be right where that arrow is pointing. But we continue discussions with those 2 divisions to make sure that it's a suitable location. That area was suggested, though, based on accessibility to water and a number of other features that were compatible with the scoring criteria. So just in terms of next steps, tonight we're seeking direction from the committee whole in terms of input on the draft policy and the initial site recommendations. Once the policy and location is confirmed, we will then engage with residents to identify those who are interested in participating as part of the initial garden group and garden development. And as part of that process, we'll be seeking a garden coordinator and alternate contact to assume a leadership role within the group. We've already had a few individuals that engaged through the consultation process that have expressed an interest in fulfilling those types of roles. So we're hopeful that there'll be some keen interest from the community. But then from there, the Parks Department will then proceed with the procurement of the required supplies for the garden that were identified as part of the community grant application. And then finally, the township would provide ongoing support to the initial garden group, and then also for subsequent groups that are interested in developing community gardens at additional township parks beyond that. And that's the last slide I have in the presentation, but I'm happy to answer questions regarding the policy or the site location.
Thank you. So I'll turn to the committee. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or items for discussion? Councillor Willis.
Thank you. And thank you for all the work that you've done on this. I think it's wonderful to see this moving forward. A couple of questions. The first garden at W.J. Henderson, is it the intention that it's going to be up and operating in 2026, or is this planning for next year?
Through the chair to Councillor Willis, thanks for the question. The intention originally when we applied for the community grant was to have the garden established and begin planting and production. We realized quickly that the engagement process would be not genuine if we proceeded with that timeline, because we wouldn't have the appropriate time to engage and act on the feedback. So realistically, we'll probably be looking at an installation in late summer. And hopefully maybe we'll have an opportunity to do some late fall harvest. But even if we're able to establish the sort of infrastructure and the garden group and some training, I think that would be a great first step to successfully moving into the next gardening season.
One more, if I may. So I understand there was a community grant for this first garden. What's the funding model going to be moving forward? Are the garden groups fundraising to create the actual garden infrastructure, or is the township going to be paying to create the gardens and the garden groups will just run them?
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Willis. Currently, we haven't budgeted in the past for community gardens. So as part of the approach, we're recommending that the township would work with garden groups to identify potential funding sources. In the future of council, we're supportive of adding budget towards community garden development in future budgets. We could obviously alter that approach, but for the time being, if the situation remains as it is, then, we work with garden groups to help identify potential grants and maybe work with the township in that regard as well to help them identify funding where possible.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Broderick.
A couple things. Thanks for the report. A lot of stuff here. The scope, does this policy prevent let's say a food security group from doing something with the township on their own property? Or I'm thinking more of a church group, a school group. Is that something that there's flexibility in this? Or is that?
Through the chair to Councillor Broderick, I believe in this policy, we'd be specifically referring to community garden development on township owned land. So that's what we reference. I guess if there was compatibility with the zoning and it was a possibility, then we could consider those applications as well. But specifically in the policy, we're referring to community gardens on township owned land.
Any other questions, comments, or items for discussion? Seeing none. We do have a recommendation before us. Would someone like to put a motion on the floor, please? Councillor Willis.
I move that the report from the Corporate Services Strategy and Innovation Division dated June 23rd, 2026, Community Garden Project Policy be received and that council adopt the community gardens policy and that council approve the establishment of a new community garden at the W.J. Henderson Community Center.
So moved. Seconded by Councillor Parks. Any comments from the mover? Seconder?
No.
Other members? I just want to say thank you for bringing this forward. I'm really glad to see it progressing and look forward to some green thumbs enjoying themselves producing some food. Thank you. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Next item, EV charging policy. Welcome. Did you have anything additional to share?
I'll just give a brief overview of the policy and what's before committee of the whole tonight. So over the last couple of years, the township has been installing EV chargers, and our first public-facing chargers are set to come on later this year at the W.J. Henderson. So as part of that process, we wanted to create a framework where the chargers throughout the township are differentiated for use between public use and fleet/staff use at the various facilities based on the needs of that location, as well as the report presents before council fee assessment for each of those chargers. So right now, staff are proposing a two-fee model where the fleet and staff use chargers would be charged at a purely cost recovery basis for the electricity costs, whereas the public-facing chargers are proposed to be charged at a cost that's set based on an analysis of the surrounding market chargers of other municipalities in the area. So that way it recovers both the electricity cost, the operating cost, plus a little bit of the capital cost that's gone into construct the chargers. That's the general overview, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Parks.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Mr. McDonald. When you talk about staff, cost for staff to use it, is that for their personal vehicle or are you talking about corporate vehicles?
Yeah, through you, your worship. Yeah, the way the current policy is written is it would allow for staffs to use their personal vehicles at those facilities.
Yep.
More just a comment. I know over the years when firefighters, volunteer firefighters have been washing their own vehicles at the fire stations, there's been some pushback with that. I just wonder how the optics of this is going to look to the public. So I do have a concern with it being at the discounted rate. That's all, for their public, for their personal use.
Comments received. Ultimately, the recommendation is that the cost would be recovered by the municipality. So the municipality isn't losing any money on it. But ultimately, that is a decision of committee of the whole.
Other comments? Councillor Boss.
I may have not read it properly, but it looked like you're setting the rate to go from 2026 to 2029 as part of the rates and charges bylaw. Was that correct? I'm just wondering if we're building in an annual review for inflation because my hydro bill goes up every year. And
Through you, your worship. Yeah, the intent would be to review the miscellaneous fees bylaw every year as it does become before council, and that process would occur then.
Okay. The other thing, and this occurred to me the other day when I was just thinking about, the day when we have a substantial amount of our fleet is EVs, and some staff would actually be taking those home at night, the vehicles. Is it part of this policy, or do you anticipate that it would be that we would have some sort of arrangement for those people that end up taking township vehicles home overnight, and how we reimburse them if they're plugging in at their own homes?
Through you, your worship, that has not been discussed to date. We are currently undertaking a fleet electrification study. So we will be sure to pass that on to our consultant, which we have just hired, and receive some feedback to see what other municipalities are doing there.
Any other questions, comments, or items for discussion? Councillor Broderick.
I'm going to go with my conservation authority thing. And I know, is there going to, I'm going to make an assumption that no matter, we have, how many electric vehicles now do we have?
Just one.
That's what I thought. So we'll have 2 stations in our public yards, 1 in each, is that right? Or 2 in 1?
At the Public Works facility right now, there's currently 1 charger. But as part of that fleet electrification study I mentioned, we are having the consultant assess how best to deploy chargers for fleet needs. And I apologize, I did misspeak. We do have 2. The Zamboni is electric as well.
Whoa, okay. Yeah, that's true. So I guess my sort of question is, management-wise, the one that, whatever you have in site, in a public yard, let's say, is that going to be a swipe card as opposed to maybe the ones that are at the WJ that you need a credit card for? Are they going to be the same type of system, or have we got to that point of thinking yet?
Yeah, through you, your worship. So the township does use the Flow system, which has a fully integrated user system where you can set user accounts. So we don't have it fully built out yet, but the system does have the capability to create township user accounts that you could then track the electric spending and charge that back to a township account. And so the intent is that based on where the funding comes from for the specific vehicle. So if it's a utilities vehicle, it gets charged back to a water or sewer account, or if it's a public works vehicle, it gets charged to the general tax rate accounts. So that capability is fully within our system. It's just a matter of electrifying the fleet and building it out.
Yes.
And then in that case, employees would have to apply to get a pass or whatever you're calling it, a Flow and Go or whatever. So that would be specific, almost like a debit card comes right out of their account. Theoretically?
Yes, exactly. It would be very similar to our current system for fleet with the gas tanks at County Road 6, where there's a fob where you have to swipe. There's an app and you'd have to tap the app.
Are there other questions, comments, or items for discussion on this? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation before us. Would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Broderick.
I would recommend that the report from engineering and subdivisions dated June 23rd, 2026, re-EV charging policy be received, that the committee of the whole recommend adoption of the EV charging policy, and that the committee of the whole recommend amending the miscellaneous fees bylaw to include the user costs for township electric vehicle charging stations.
So moved. Seconded by Counselor Willis. Mover, any comments?
Just one's a good start.
Seconder? Other members of council? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. And now I would entertain a motion to adjourn from the committee of the whole. Counselor Willis, so moved. Counselor Budrick, seconded. All in favor? Motion is carried. We are adjourned at 8:33. So back into the council meeting. Next item up is notice of motion. Do we have any notice of motion for this evening? Counselor Budrick.
I do, and I hope that the clerk could throw it up on the screen for everyone to read.
It's on the screen, so you can go ahead.
Yeah, it's there for you to read. The council directs staff to bring back a report considering advisability, feasibility, and operational considerations relating to the potential drafting of a bylaw relating to smoking and vaporizing in public places and enclosed workspaces. And if I get someone to second that, I can just give everyone the rationale from where it came from.
So with the notice of motion, that is just being, it will come back on the next council agenda at the regular meeting, and then you can present it and we can have a discussion at that time.
Perfect, works for me.
Thank you. Are there any other notices of motion this evening? Seeing none, are there any direct motions you wish to bring forward this evening? Seeing none, the next item is a consent agenda, and they can all be addressed together or we can extract. Are there any items council wishes to extract? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Councillor Prodrick.
I would move that all items in the consent agenda dated June 26, 2026 be approved as presented and necessary action be taken.
So moved. Seconded by Councillor Parks. Any comments, discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Announcements. Are there any announcements this evening? Councillor Willis.
Thank you. Through you, your worship, I have two. On the weekend, Councillor Prodrick and the mayor and I were able to attend the grand opening of the gazebo, the accessible gazebo that's built at the back kitchen. That was the result of a community grant. So it's always nice to see these things come full circle and actually attend them and see people enjoying them. So thank you to council for approving that grant. And earlier today, I was privileged to attend the Amherst Island Public School grade 8 graduation. It was a banner year. There were 5 grads this year. So I'm going to name them all. I'd like to congratulate Aria Cooper, Shale Patterson, Rosie McDonald, Kiki Suds, and Lucas Walhoot on their graduation. And they had a very lovely ceremony.
Well done. Thank you. Are there any other announcements? Councillor Prodrick.
Again, thank you for the invitation to the people from the back kitchen. Jelly donuts were fabulous, and the mayor went home with a nice, colorful teddy bear. On a serious note, a couple of serious notes. I want to give a shout out to Blessed Sacrament Parish and the Windsor Group for arranging an arrangement that allows the Windsor Group to use the church parking lot. I think there's 15 spots. I don't know what their arrangement is, but I got that news when I went to church on Sunday that the parish priest gave that. So that's great. That may help short term on some of that. I want to give a shout out to the staff from Mr. Persistency for the Dinosaur Park. I went by today and looks like it's in motion. So I know residents are waiting for that. And I want to thank the mayor for signing those certificates that the mayor signs. My niece and my son both graduated this past weekend. And the first thing my niece said, he's the mayor, isn't he? I said, yeah. And my son said, does he not know how to spell Aiden? So anyways, we'll work on that, but thank you for that.
You were the
I wrote
teacher.
it nice and big and then said, no, but
You were the teacher. You can work on my spelling.
yeah, that's okay.
Thank you. Any other announcements this evening? Seeing none, it was a great grand opening for the gazebo. The donuts were very good. It didn't matter how many you ate, they were still good. And so was the lunch and everything too. So it is great to see that money being well used and going to be enjoyed. So, yes. Councillor Parks.
Thank you. Just wanted to wish everyone a happy Canada Day. Unfortunately, I won't be available this year to attend the parade, so everybody come out and enjoy the festivities in the village.
Yes, nope, we don't have to walk. We're taking care of you. There's been some people working on it. Okay. Next would be the confirmatory bylaw. Do I have a mover for the confirmatory?
I know this was somebody else's job, it seemed, but I'll take over for that. We recommend that the bylaw 2026-38 to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Loyalist Township be enacted and passed, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign and seal.
So moved. Seconded by Councillor Budrick. All in favor? Motion is passed. And the motion to adjourn, Councillor Budrick and Councillor Willis. All in favor? Motion is passed. We are adjourned at 8:39.